here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I used to struggle with very much when I was younger. It was the idea that the art that I produced never looked quite the way that I had imagined it in my mind. I'm talking about drawing a picture from your mind's eye and using that visualization as your reference. My art always fell short, and I became very disappointed in my drawings for not looking good enough or like how I thought they should have looked. I'll talk a bit about this and what I changed, how it affected me, and how I've grown to look at the situation now that I'm older. But before we get too far into the video, I just want to talk a little bit about the piece that we're going to work on today. And this was inspired by my good friend Mickey, who sent me a beautiful, wonderful Christmas gift in the mail that had a whole bunch of different goodies in it, and it did have some washi tape. And I was looking at the patterns, and I decided, I need to do something with this washi tape. And I was inspired by the patterns on the tape to try to draw an Indian woman. I really like this picture. I hope you guys like it too. And big thank you to Mickey for providing me with the tape for this drawing. She's just so wonderful and sweet, and I love her very much. So we're gonna get back on topic. When I was younger, I used to visualize what I wanted to draw in my head and then transfer the visualization directly to paper. And I will tell you that absolutely 100% of the pictures that I made using this method ended in miserable, horrible failure. I was always completely disappointed and unhappy with not only the finished product, but myself as well. So why did this happen? Why did I end up feeling this way, and how could I have changed this? And to be completely honest, I get the appeal of doing art this way at first. As a little kid, I'd imagine something really awesome in my brain and wanted it to become a real thing. I wanted to bring it to life. After all, I really thought this is what artists do, or at least the method that artists used for making something original. You imagine the finished piece, and then you draw that from your mind, right? I pretty quickly realized that doing art in this way led to some complications. First off, I hated everything I made, and I was absolutely disappointed and unhappy with my artwork. And that is never a good thing. I used to beat myself up over how my final piece never quite captured the idea that I had in my mind. I used to spend so much time feeling like complete garbage about my art quality, when in reality, I never had to even feel this way in the first place. But man, sometimes I would get so frustrated, I would quit drawing for the rest of the night. And I just figured, okay, I'll sleep on it and I'll try again in the morning. It's not that I didn't want to draw. I definitely could have kept going. I was inspired to do stuff. However, that frustration that I was talking about earlier, of the art not being good enough or not right, made it impossible to keep going. I just didn't have the patience to do it. This whole method of drawing from my mind's eye became really self-destructive to me, and it created patterns. And it's not drawing from your mind that exactly caused this whole thing or caused me to feel this way. I could have simply viewed what I was doing differently. I eventually learned that this method of drawing was not for me. The reality of it was that I was setting myself up to fail before I even started. I was a novice artist, and I expected way too much of myself, and held myself to a standard I was nowhere near achieving. So instead of looking at my art for what it was and appreciating what I did accomplish, or what I improved upon, or what I did well, I was focused only on what was missing or how inaccurate it was to what was in my mind. When I got a bit older, I realized that regardless of how awful I made myself feel over my failure art, it wasn't helping me. In fact, it was making me avoid drawing as much as I wanted to because of all the frustration. So I decided to make a big change. Whatever I made, I made. I stopped visualizing complete images in my mind, and instead, I focused on a very vague idea of what I may, a vague idea of what I may want. But I never let my imagination get carried away with itself. I took that vague idea and I would draw something loosely inspired by that vague idea. And yeah, it was weird at first, to purposely ignore what I wanted, but I got used to it. And it was also really hard to kind of shake the feeling of falling short, but after a while, those feelings began to disappear as well. And I concentrated on how much I enjoyed making stuff. And when I compared the new art that I was making using this new system, the results were much better. I realized that I was enjoying art more, and as a result, I was practicing more and making more art. The quality of my art was getting better more quickly because of these changes. More importantly, I was much happier this way, and I wasn't as frustrated. Looking back at it all, it's really sad how much time I spent or wasted beating myself up. What I should have done was sit down and look at the picture and just feel happy I accomplished drawing something. Good or bad, it doesn't matter what it is. I made something, I practiced something, and I got better at something for putting the effort in. And of course, there are mistakes, but that's all right, because over time I'll improve. And I won't improve any faster because I made myself feel terrible. I'll improve the same amount regardless of beating myself up. And actually, I started practicing more because I let go of that disappointment. And I learned to enjoy art more and be happy with what I did. Was I winning any awards? No. Was I drawing exactly what I visualized? No. But I was happy and I was improving my artwork faster than I was before. Now, I know some people out there may feel like it's a good thing to beat yourself up over your art. After all, you don't want to be complacent with what you make. There will always be flaws in your art, and you need to step up to the plate and improve upon those mistakes. It's sort of like you're providing motivation for yourself to get better because you're striving for excellence. And while all that sounds like it can be the answer, or it sounds good, or it can be spun in a good way, it just never really worked that way for me. Regardless if I beat myself up emotionally, I can always see the mistakes in a picture that I make. And it's not that by being happy with my art that all of a sudden I'm just ignoring or I can't see the mistakes. My eyeballs didn't fall out of my head. I can still see the mistakes or things that I need improving. However, I don't have to make myself feel awful over it. As for drawing from my mind as an adult, I realized that this was impossible for me to accomplish. And still, if I try to draw exactly from my mind and translate it to paper, my art still falls short. And it's not that I end up with a bad picture, but it's never the way I exactly want it to be. Instead, I will either mindlessly draw something and turn it into a picture, or I'll draw something from my mind that is extremely vague. And I do this on purpose. You know, I might think of a color scheme I want to explore or a vague idea of a pose, but I'll never go into too much detail about it or what it should exactly look like, because I know my finished piece will never, ever look exactly the same. I've also noticed that as I'm drawing, if I really try to draw from the visualization in my mind, it'll change over time. And if I really want something to be sharp or in focus or like really use it as a reference, you know, look at that image in my mind and draw from it, like it's never sharp, and it's always changing, and it's always different, and it doesn't work for me. So as a result, I completely tossed this method out the window and pretty much completely abandoned it. Like, my motto now is go vague or go home, because if I try to draw from this brain, things aren't gonna happen. And while it was upsetting at first, I've actually found great peace with that. You know, like, not all my art is beautiful and not all of it I really love, but like the picture I made today, sometimes I'll make something I never thought I would end up with, and I'll be really super proud. And honestly, I don't have that much pride for my artwork. You know, rarely do I actually make something I really, really like. But today, I can say that I'm really happy with this picture. And it all started off with a vague idea of what I wanted because I saw some tape. And I'm just so happy with the result. And my goal isn't to be out here to control anyone. And I can't control anyone. But perhaps I can tell you what happened to me, what my experiences are. And maybe that can help you change the way you see things, or just think about something just a little bit differently. You don't have to feel bad or fall short, and you can be happy and enjoy what you make. Appreciate your art for what it is, not what it could have been, or what exactly you imagined it to be. There's something I probably should mention before I close the video, and that would be that a good practice is to collect references to use in your artwork. And you can combine different references to recreate a picture you had in your mind. Then you can use that collage as a reference for your final drawing. And I figured I should mention this because sometimes drawing from your imagination can be difficult. And if we need to have something to base our picture off of, finding actual references and then creating your own original art from a combination of those other pictures can be very helpful. And I guess I should also say that regardless of finding references, I feel like you'll always still fall short of your visual in your mind. Like, you'll never find that perfect person at that perfect angle with the perfect features you imagined in your head. But, I mean, hey, you can find something close and base your art off of something physically in front of you instead of that image in your mind. And that might help you out. And to be brutally honest, I probably could have done that when I was younger, but I never did. But regardless, it's still a good technique that you can utilize in your own artwork if you think that that method would help you out. Changing the procedure of how we make art can sometimes be extremely helpful, and we can end up with great results. After all, maybe drawing from your visualizations in your mind, maybe that really works for you, but it never worked for me. Or maybe you use the collage method and that really works for you. I never used it, but maybe that would be great for someone else. Or maybe you do the vague idea of something and you just kind of do whatever like I do. There's no right or wrong way to go about it, but I think it's important to reflect upon these different techniques and make sure that they don't result with you being too upset or too disappointed in yourself, like in my case. If something's not working for you, then change it and make it work for you. And that's really what I want to drive home from this video, is that if there's something that's upsetting you with your artwork, then find another method or another way that works for you. So this video isn't like the answer to everything, but it gives you suggestions on how to maybe view things differently or change what you do and do it a little bit differently, and that will help you in the long run. So that's kind of what I hope that you'll take away from this. And that is pretty much it for this video. And boy, do I have a bunch of questions for you guys. Okay, I'm really curious if other people have had a similar experience to mine. So, have you ever tried to draw exactly a picture from your mind? If so, how often do you draw exactly what you have visualized from your imagination versus something that might be kind of remotely similar? Are you ever disappointed with your results when you try to draw something specific or detailed from your mind? Does the visualization in your mind change over time like it does in my case? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I hope it does. And how often do you beat yourself up over the results of a picture? It doesn't necessarily have to do with the method that you use to make an original, but do you beat yourself up over the results of your finished artwork? Do you find that you perform better or motivate yourself more from being kind to yourself or by beating yourself up? And those are my questions for today's video. If you guys want to also suggest other techniques or methods that you use to draw that others might find helpful, feel free, because I think what's important about YouTube and the art community is you guys, and telling ideas and bouncing ideas off of one another and reflecting about what we do or how we act or how we see things. So let me know what you think. I look forward to reading all of your comments, and you guys take care of yourselves. I'll see you next week for another video. I believe we have a YouTube Artist Collective theme coming up, so get ready for a crazy themed upload day by a bunch of artists. I love you guys, and take care of yourselves. Bye.